How are you today? So I'm Hector and I'm here to talk about one of the main lines of research that I'm following at the moment, which is the line about mental health. And I have the pleasure to follow this line with my former colleague Gemma Bello, who is from the Polytechnical University of Madrid, or Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. So basically, the paper that I want to present today has the spoiler in the title, so don't get surprised. And it says, smartphones and wristband detect stress as good as intrusive physiological devices. So what this means? Basically, when Gemma and I started working together on this, we were focused on understanding how much we can support the detection of stress, and basically not only that, but the detection of different mental states. And the importance of that is to provide support for people with this struggling with mental health these days. Okay, just to give you a little bit about the motivation of why we started with this specific line of work. You might have noticed that actually there are many mental health issues without not necessarily planes of society, but also the situation that we are living currently in this world. And also after the pandemic, after COVID-19, the mental health cases just grew up significantly in all societies. So this generated a lot of problems in terms of the system trying to cope with the demand, because there was more demand than resources, and especially we lack psychologists. So we wanted to support the system, we wanted to provide a way to scale the solution of these problems. And basically the idea is to help to create a mechanism that might support the detection of different mental states and also treatments or monitoring of patients. Okay, so basically just to tell you how we are planning to help, the idea is that we will be collecting data in the future, even though at the moment we are going to compare which kind of data we should collect, and we will use machine learning to provide detection systems or to provide potential recommendations to people who are struggling with mental health. So at the moment, what we have done is to try to understand how much data we need and what will be the best way to collect that data. Okay, so for that we focus on 3 different levels of intrusion. So basically we focus on the low level, which could be mobile phones. So there's no intrusion in the sense of your physiological data, because the mobile phone is not taking any information from your body itself, even though it's taking a lot of information which might compromise your privacy. So this is still something that needs to be adjusted. Okay, the second level of intrusion is what we call wearable devices. So basically, if you have a smartwatch or if you have a wristband, that will be a wearable device, because you can just take it with you wherever you want and it doesn't really bother you. And the third level of intrusion will be like a chest band or a headband that is collecting information from your physiological data. That will be difficult to wear, and that will be only suitable for very specific situations. So the question was, are these systems actually necessary for detecting stress or in general? The main question will be for detecting any kind of mental state, but in this case we are focused on stress. So which kind of data we are taking from these devices? So from the low level, we might have information about Wi-Fi around you, Bluetooth around you, information about which apps you are using, information about whether you are locking the phone, whether the phone is on, off, etc. So you might imagine a little bit of information about your mobile phone. From the wearable devices, you will have, for instance, from a smartwatch, you might have information about the heart rate, blood pressure, body temperature, acceleration. Some of this information will also be translated to the chest band, but also on the chest band, you might be able to find information like electrocardiogram or mental signals. So with this information, we extract the data, and what we are going to do is to construct machine learning models. This machine learning model will focus on 2 specific classes. The classes are going to be detect stress or no stress. Something slightly simple, but actually very, very powerful for what we want to do. So what's the methodology? Which specific data we are using for this level of intrusion? So for the low level of intrusion, we are focused on a specific dataset that is called student life. This dataset only contains information about mobile phones, about different users that has been using mobile phones, concretely students, and it provides a lot of information that we have aggregated in terms of how the phone has been used. The second dataset is PASS, which is a control environment when we have information from a wearable device, in this case the Empatica 4, and also information from an intrusive device, in this case the bioharness 3. And the last dataset is WhatsApp, which is also a normal lifestyle data that is collecting information from a wearable device, again the Empatica 4, and also from a device that will be an intrusive device, that in this case is the Raspberry one. Okay, so with this information, what we are doing is trying to create a classifier that is able to detect stress or no stress. However, we are going to focus on classifiers that can fit in a mobile phone or classifier that can fit in a wearable device. So we are going to focus on the classic classifiers that are normally smaller. So we will be focused on 11 different classifiers that are commonly used for common machine learning tasks, instead of focusing on deep learning, LLMs, or very huge classifiers that might not be required for this specific task. Okay, because the idea is to be able to run this with low resources. So what were the research questions that we were trying to answer? So basically the first research question is, what intrusion level is the most accurate in terms of detecting stress? And this question was basically a little bit tricky because we wanted to know whether we needed to be very intrusive, no intrusive, or just slightly intrusive. And the second question is basically how much the datasets contribute to the detection of stress. So let's have a look to the results that we obtained. So on the first set of results, you have the results from the student life dataset, that is basically the mobile phones. Okay, we discovered that three classifiers were actually the most accurate for detecting stress. In this case, neural networks, random forest, and strength gradient boosting. So all of them have very good results with cross-validation accuracy about 80%, but the real accuracy, which is the test accuracy, is about 70–75%. And basically this data was divided between different time frames. We aggregated data from 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 12 hours, and 24 hours. So what we wanted to see is whether we need to have a lot of historical data aggregated, or we can just have like as hour of information to detect stress. The good news is that the results obviously are better with 24 hours of data, but that's not necessarily a huge improvement. So with 1 or 2 hours, we have also very solid results in order to be able to detect stress. And that's the main case for classifiers like random forest, for instance. In terms of the devices that are a bit more intrusive, with PASS and WhatsApp, we have the opportunity to compare medium intrusiveness, which is wearable devices, and high intrusiveness, which is basically the Raspberry Pi or the bioharness, depending on the dataset. So we were able to see that there is almost no difference between medium and high intrusion in the same context. And this is actually amazing because we don't need to have high intrusion level in order to collect the data. We can just focus on wearable devices and discard devices that might be too intrusive for the users. So with this, we can see that in the case of PASS, in the lab environment, we have about 70% of detection in the best case scenarios, which is reasonable, but is not ideal. But in the case of WhatsApp, when we have like a normal style, normal life data, we have very, very high accuracy, about 97%, which is impressive. This says that using this device with this specific methodology can support a lot the work of different therapies to identify mental states in people, and also to detect stress and support therapies related to stress. So just to wrap up, just comparing all of the cases, we can see that the medium level of intrusion is actually quite accurate. The low level of intrusion is very accurate for the information that it takes. Just imagine the case of PASS with the high level of intrusion. And basically, it will be interesting to be able to combine both of them to see how much information we can take from the user in order to detect mental states, but also to be able to configure the privacy. So for example, if you don't want the system to know your location, or you don't want the system to know which specific apps you are using, you can just configure or turn the system in order to improve your privacy, which is something that we consider that is really important, especially these days. Basically, the best data set or the best methodology to collect data is the one that was followed by WhatsApp. So this will be like normal daily life, where you just have like Empatica or a smartwatch, which is collecting information about your body signals, but not in a very intrusive way. Basically, the high intrusion level can be discarded. And also, if you want to have something cheaper, you can also have the mobile phone that will be collecting information about how you're using the system and will be able to provide also an accurate answer about stress, even though we still need to improve a little bit more the accuracy of this system. So just to conclude, basically having a high level of intrusion is not needed, and in terms of with data sets will be more interesting. So basically we should have like a medium level of intrusion will be strong enough to provide like a proper answer, and we should follow a procedure like WhatsApp will focus on lifestyle data. In terms of future lines of work, what we want to do is to improve the accuracy of the system, so we want to focus it more on the user and try to perform time series analysis to predict what is going to happen in the future, not only to detect what is happening already. And also we want to provide a timely response to the user, so we can provide recommendations in order to reduce that. So I hope you like the paper, I hope you enjoy it, and if you have any question, feel free to ask me. I think this is a very fascinating topic. And also if you want, just subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos about this, and also like the video. Thank you very much and see you on the next one. Bye bye.